This is the Deering Acting Studio Podcast, where we discuss the connection between life and acting.
Alrighty, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mornings with Matt, the Deering Acting Studio Podcast. I want to remind everybody, do not forget to subscribe to this channel, like and share it. Help us spread that light-driven content to the planet.
Like, subscribe, share.
So today we got a great topic: bloom where you're planted.
What does that mean, Matt?
I'm
just curious.
Are you straight up curious?
Yeah, like it's an interesting term. I understand it's an analogy for you, but in general, what does it mean?
Okay, so
I'm just hopping in today. Also, I think your laptop is playing the music.
Is it? No, I don't think
Something.
that's me. I'm muted over here. Oh, it's the sound machine making the music.
Oh,
it just wasn't down all the way. All right, so what is bloom where you're planted? What this means is, imagine being a tree, Joey, okay, and you get planted someplace, and you keep staring at other places, and you're like, I wish I could go over there and go where those other trees are, where they're bearing some fruit. And so you keep staring at the other trees instead of putting your roots down and finding a way to make the best of where you are.
Interesting.
So it's like what I've told Brian before with his story, and me saying if he does things right, he's got this incredible journey that he's been on and that he continues to go through, where the fact that he comes out of that and becomes strong is like a huge win, and something that he's going to be able to take and speak about and connect with the world on. So if he can really lean into where he is, who he is, and then make the most of it, and then this is for all of us, we're going to be more successful than us trying to be something that we're not.
Facts. I love that idea.
All right, and it has a lot of meanings too. So I'm gonna dive into some of them actually.
Cool. Let's.
I'm gonna hit the Bible here real quick.
Let's dive in.
This is a verse from Jeremiah 17. It says, "Thus says the Lord: Cursed is the man who trusts in man, and makes flesh his strength." Whose heart turns away from the Lord. He is like a shrub in the desert, and shall not see any good come. He shall dwell in the parched places of the wilderness, in an uninhibited salt land. So the description here is life's gonna suck. I mean, you ever been in the middle of the desert and you see a little tiny shrub and it's that's what God's like. If you trust in man, if you trust in flesh,
that's what you get.
That's what you get.
Yeah.
If you trust in material goods, you trust in all the junk that's out there, that's what you're gonna get. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I lived in Wickenburg, so I'm very familiar with what that looks like, and if you aren't, it really does it's just a bunch of sticks.
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody in Arizona too, if you just go on a hike, you just see one of these things and it's you're a shrub in the middle of nowhere, right? I mean, so God's that's what you get. Okay.
Yeah.
And, all right. So so that's the one idea. And this is you trusting in the flesh, kind of looking away. Now here's the very next verse, Joey. It says, "Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is in the Lord. He is like a tree planted by water that sends its roots by the stream and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green, and is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit."
Okay. Like
Okay.
so that's like where the tropics are, probably, is what, like,
No, it's
visual
like it's
representation, like by the ocean.
no, by a stream.
Oh, okay. My bad.
By the river. Just
Sure.
like a tree in Colorado isn't going to try so hard to have to grow year round. A tree that's planted by the river. It the river's coming. Whenever there's water, there's more water. When there's less water, there's less water. But those trees don't care because they've been planted in such a way that their roots go underneath the ground, and they've got the water. Like the water's there. And so when everybody else is freaking out, which now is a great time to be talking about this thing because the world is freaking out,
Yeah.
right? And we gotta go back to the basics, and we gotta remember, where's your faith? What are you putting your faith in? Is it in the news? Because I think they've proven themselves to be not trustworthy.
That's a bad idea.
Okay, are you putting your faith in a person, in a man, in an idea, or are you putting your faith in God? Really?
Yeah.
And when we get to this place where we're like, all right, you know what? No matter the circumstances, no matter what happens, let's say with the election here, okay? No matter what happens, if my faith is strong, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's an earthquake either.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter if there's the coronavirus. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you're gonna be good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So you take this idea of bloom where you're planted, and when you're feeling extra anxious. So I mean, I think I was feeling pretty extra anxious, the way I think the rest of the world is feeling extra anxious because of this election. Okay, and all these, all the feels are coming up, and I noticed this thing. I told you about this yesterday, but I noticed this thing on Thursday. I was like, oh my gosh. I heard my class was telling me, that my adults class at night, they're like, I'm so, they're like, I'll be honest, I got the election on in the corner. And my kids' class, same thing. The kids had the election on in the corner of the rooms during my class.
Yeah.
But guess what? On the breaks, I had the election on in the corner of the room.
Dang.
And I'm like, wait a minute, like, what's going on? And I was like, dude, you're getting addicted to this election news like it's crack.
Yeah.
You've got to stop. You have to cut yourself off. And so yesterday I did a fast. The full day, not night, full day.
Oh.
All right. I fasted. And you know what? It was so good for my soul. It was so good for the productivity of this place.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is, like, during the middle of the day, because you and I have always gone back and forth since you did those sketches with Frank. And so every now and then we'll just throw in, like, a Trump impersonation.
Sure.
And I can't remember what I said yesterday, but it was something really silly about editing. But I was like, it's the #1 video or something like that. And you literally snapped, and you were like, oh, it's like crack. Now I want to look at it.
Right.
You know?
I was like, dude, don't do that, because now I want to go look.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wow.
That's crazy.
Wow, I got programmed quickly. I got addicted quickly. Mm-hmm. I heard this whole, like, kerfuffle has been so good for the news, which is horrible, but it's been so good for them because their ratings are through the roof. And I can tell you, as a guy who's cut himself off completely from the news, all of a sudden the last week, I'm like obsessed over it, and I'm done with that. I'm done. I don't want to live that way. You know, I have so many more big priorities and things that are important to me that I can't be obsessing over somebody else's regurgitation of something that's out of my control at this point in time. So whether or not Trump is right, and this whole thing is a fraud, and if it is, hopefully it comes to light. And if that's not the case, and he really lost the election, then he'll lose the election. And either way, I'm gonna bloom where I'm planted. I'm gonna bloom, like, I'm right here. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's the idea. Is you make what you can out of where you are and what you got. So it doesn't mean be lazy, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not what it means. And it doesn't mean, don't stretch out and don't try new things. Like, it doesn't mean any of that stuff. It just means you be the best you can be right where you are. and then grow from there. You're trying to take a drink without making a noise. Let's see here. How'd you do? Yeah, pretty good, dude. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear the gulp.
I think I got it. I think I got it.
Good job. Congratulations. Okay.
I feel like I deserve like some sound effects.
Okay.
Oh, that.
So here's a cool life example of this, which is this is mind blowing actually. If you want to believe in God, you just got to talk to a couple people about some of these weird God moments where you're like, how it's crazy. So this phrase has become very popular in the last few years, the bloom where you're planted, but before Leeann was like looking at it online or anything like that, like the phrase came to her years and years ago. And we were sitting in our old house, we were growing our family, and she wanted a new house. I didn't want a new house. I liked my house. She wanted a new house. Well, my wife's smarter than I am, and she knew, she could feel that we were expanding. We were going to need more room. She's right, always, as usual. But at the time, I'm like, I don't know, babe, whatever. And we couldn't even afford to paint our walls because we were going through. I was taking us through this extreme savings and get out of debt thing, and I was doubling down on our mortgage payments. Like I was doing all these financially fiscal and smart things, and we sacrificed quite a bit. Like we had old tables, old couches. I mean, we literally had a room where it was half finished for probably 9 months because it wasn't a priority. It wasn't getting us out of debt. And this was hard for my wife. It was very difficult, and she kept wanting something that she didn't have. And she finally turned to God on it. And God gives her this phrase. He says, bloom where you're planted. Like she just heard it. Like it came to her, and she told me about it. And she's like, God just told me this, bloom where you're planted. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna just be here, be grateful. Well, here's what's nuts, Joey. 2 years later, she still wants a new house. And I go, babe, here's the thing. Like, probably not gonna happen. Like I don't know that I don't even know what our credit's looking like because of the debt we were in. I don't even know about this or that, about the money we have. But I go, I'll tell you what, if everything lines up, we'll get a house. But I'm going to tell you right now, what I won't do is move really far away from the studio. Please, 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 dear God, do not move me far away from the studio because I'm here so often. I want to be connected to my kids. I want to be able to, like, that lifestyle. It's very important to me. So I'm like, we got to be close to the studio. And she's like, yeah, well, the problem is, I have all these ideas and all these thoughts that are connected, and to the type of house that I want. And this is an older neighborhood. I don't know that we're going to be able to hit my, like, what I desire. And I'm like, well, I get that, but I really don't want to move far away from the studio. And I'm going to tell you something else, babe. I want a big backyard. Like, I don't want to go smaller than the backyard we have right now, But see, she wouldn't mind that because she's not a backyard person.
Yeah.
So she'd be like, oh, I'll take a big, massive house with a tiny little backyard. And I'm like, that's not for me. I want a house that's spread out, and I want a big old backyard. Like, that's what I want, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would argue that Leeann has turned into a backyard person.
For sure. But I'm okay. But
this is pre-context, but I'm just saying, like, that is surprising to me because you're right, and I remember her beforehand.
But even now, if she could have one or the other, it would be she'd want the bigger house versus the bigger backyard.
Interesting.
And I take a little shack and a big old backyard. So we make a good compromise. Let's put it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
So having said that, like there's a lot of things to check off on a box here to make that a reality. And again, I'm like, babe, I tell you what, if it all works out, if everything works out perfectly, fine, we'll move houses, right? Well, dude, you would never believe it. Literally, the house of Leeann's dreams comes up on the market. It's about, I don't know, 10 blocks away. It's like a mile away from the studio. It's a brand new house. Guess what? Built on a half-acre lot. Like those don't exist in our neighborhood. Right there. Brand new. Like the house got torn down, built new. It's gorgeous. It's like what she would have picked. It's what I would have picked for the backyard. And miraculously, it's right there at our price range. And I'm like, all right, I'll admit that's crazy, but probably we're not going to be able to afford it. Probably whatever. Well, we go to the bank. The bank's like, I'll give you 800,000. I'm like, oh, no wonder you're the bank and you get yourself in trouble. Well, I don't need 800,000. Thank you very much. But okay, great. So now we've got the credit apparently. So I'm like, all right, well, you still need the down payment. So we go to our house, and I didn't know this, but we had completely made a bunch of money on our current home. So we had to down, like literally, Joey, everything lined up. Then this house goes up for sale, and there's like 3 buyers on it. Now we're competing, and I'm like, babe, everything's really gonna have to work out for us to get this house, you know. Anyway, it works out. We get the house. Okay. Now here's the craziest part. We live on a street called Bloomfield. The Lord said to Leeann 2 years prior, bloom where you're planted. She didn't even know a street called Bloomfield existed. And she's like, oh.
Or else she'd have been looking there for a longer time.
No, it didn't exist, bro. It didn't exist. The house wasn't there.
Oh, that's right.
It didn't exist. Like, so literally God's like, if you chill, Leeann, and you trust me,
you a house.
That's right. He was building her a house over 2 years while she relaxed. So she planted herself by the river, finally. The drought came, but she's like, I trust. I'm not going to freak out. And meanwhile, God's like, yeah, I got you. Like, I'm building this thing behind your back. I mean, unbelievable. And you know, we have crazy stories like that are, you know, with our kids and with different friends and people. And it's like, when you, and this is what the book's all about, The Best Listener in the Room. It's about listening. It's about connecting to God and listening for real, to what's true, what's right, what's good. And when you do that, like I tell my kids, you focus on good things happen. You focus on God, things happen. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Right? And if we're honest with ourselves, when you're watching certain programming, you're not necessarily focused on God. One of our guests who was in here that put up a post recently, and it was really good, because the idea was being healthy is not just about your diet. It's not just about what you eat, but it's about what your diet or what you're eating in your brain. Like, what are you watching? What are you taking in? That's your diet too. And I've been preaching that, but I had to remind myself, like, oh, so true, because I'm going to become one of these cynical people, because that's what I'm absorbing in. So that's what's going to come out. I got to stop doing that. Right? And it doesn't mean that not have a voice. It doesn't mean not have an opinion. And you know, and those things are very important. But at the same time, you don't want to become obsessed over something and then be surprised that you're planted in the middle of the desert and you're not growing.
Yeah, for sure. And you get the recycled information. Like, it's a long tube of just negativity. Like, there's different ways it can come at you. One of my favorite things, gosh, I'm gonna butcher it, but I saw on Instagram when I was posting one of our videos yesterday, somebody put up, be careful during these times where you are like, stay mindful of what bothers you, like what you don't like, because oftentimes you turn into what you don't like in these times.
Interesting. Well, yeah. Well, that makes sense, because what you focus on, you become. What you focus on becomes your reality, becomes your truth.
Yeah.
So yes.
And again, it was much more elegantly stated than that.
But it doesn't matter. The concept makes sense. What you focus on is what comes true. It's like if you're if you're in a car and you're about to run into something, you don't want to focus on the thing you're going to run into. You want to focus on the thing the place you want to go instead. But if I focus on the thing, I'm going to hit the thing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it can be counterintuitive sometimes to steer into it in order to avoid it, which sometimes you have to do. But your eyes got to be focused on where you want to go, not on where you were. The other thing that's interesting about this idea, Joey, is right now, because of the pandemic, right now because of the different instabilities that we have going on, we all have this thing inside of us right now where we're feeling stuck. I feel like there's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And going back to this concept of bloom where you're planted, well, if you're stuck, what can you do from where you are? And the Apostle Paul is a great example of this. The Apostle Paul gets locked up. He's in prison, literally being sometimes tortured, beat. And what does the dude do? He starts writing letters to churches that have become now one of the most important parts of the Bible that have like gone on to live on forever, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy tunes into God. He's in prison, and yet he's grateful to be there. He's like, life is good. I'm cool. I mean, I'd love to come visit you guys. Hopefully I get out of here, but let me instead like write the Bible while I'm here.
It's like a hotel room for my mind.
Yeah,
keeping my mind.
And a lot of people did that at the beginning of the beginning of the virus, right? It's like, hey, we're stuck in this thing. What can I do new? What new skill could I grab onto? Like, how could I impact people and serve people, etc. That's how the show got started, right? Like, we began the show because of the pandemic, and I was thinking to ourselves, well, what can we do versus what can't we do? Another guy who's I don't know if you've heard of him. He's in the Bible quite a bit. His name's Jesus, the old JC, Jesus Christ.
No, I have no clue who that is.
Oh, he died for our sins.
Not
This whole thing.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh,
so
I just have this like weird thing I got at the dollar store.
No, that's called a cross, bro. All right. So anyway, so as Jesus said this concept too that I want us to all focus on right now, which is don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to take care of itself. What does that mean?
It means stay in the moment.
Stay in the moment.
Trust God's plan.
Yes.
God's plan.
And think about this, plan. Okay? So let's go back to yesterday and my fasting of all the information that was coming at me. And by the way, I'm telling you, that's hard because it's everywhere. And very quickly, we all became very addicted to it.
Bro. I feel you.
Okay, so what am I...
Just not the election for me, but like when football season comes back, bro.
It's already back. Yeah.
No, I know, but every year.
Oh,
it's
sure.
Like, football season comes back, and I'm like, let's go. There's so many people talking about so many things.
Dude, and at least you're finally admitting to it.
Sure.
Which now I'm like, I feel like that's you becoming a stronger man because you didn't want to admit to it before, but you admitting to the fact that that's an addiction and that it's gonna hold you back from being successful. I like that you're now admitting that, and if you still do it, fine. The same way I was still looking at the election, fine, but I still have to admit, I got to be honest with myself that it's not actually helping me.
Yeah, for sure.
Would I want to know the information? Yes. Guess what? As soon as the president's elected, I'm going to know about it, whether I'm watching the news or not. It's going to get to me. You understand that?
Yeah.
Like big news gets to you.
For sure.
The day that Kobe died, I found out within 15 minutes that he had died. Within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I wasn't watching the news. I wasn't connected. I wasn't listening to the radio. Somebody called me. Because when big news hits, it spreads very quickly. And then there's the temptation when you find out Kobe died to go watch all the news articles about it and go watch all the things and then see like, well, how did he die? And what was how did the helicopter crash go? And who was in charge and who's to blame? And you want to go down this whole path of like things that, you know what? It's kind of none of your business necessarily. Or if it is, fine, but don't kid yourself in the fact that you're just looking at the shiny thing and you want to like stare at this thing. And it's like ding, 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 ding. And they are wanting to splash a big headline to suck you in for a couple weeks. So anyway, what happens yesterday when I fast the election for a day? That's all it was, a day. All right.
Well, just an afternoon, really.
No, it was a full day. It was
Oh, I thought you said you looked at it at night.
right, but not an after. You said it just an afternoon. I mean, it was morning through till night, and then it
I
wasn't
see.
until like 7 p.m. that I checked in on it.
Gotcha.
But what I'm trying to say is it was a full day. So like because the previous 2 days during my work day, I had it on. I was aware of it. It was
Yeah.
ding ding ding
Yeah.
in my head, and guess what? You cannot operate anything when you're distracted. It's a chapter in my book. I know this. You cannot multitask. Therefore, I was operating at probably 10% of my capability the last 2 days. And then yesterday, kicked it into high gear, and we got more done yesterday than we had gotten done the previous 3 days combined. And I was still shaking off the hangover from staring at the tube a couple days before. And now today, going to double down again. So now here's the idea, right? Is like, does it make it easier today? No, not at all. Do I want to watch some guys talk about it or some gals talk about it? I totally do, but I'm not going to. But that's a choice, and it's a hard choice, and it's one that we have to make. So we have to go, and we have to go. All right. So where are we right now? What have we done, and who are we? That's where we're planted right now. Bloom where you're planted means do what you can right now with what you got. Because if I'm sitting here worrying about tomorrow, that's me worrying, stressing, creating fear. You know, they say fear is false evidence appearing real. The idea of that is like false evidence. Well, if I'm worried about tomorrow actually hasn't happened yet. So why am I going to focus on that?
Yeah.
Instead, why don't I focus on today? It's like focusing on what I can do versus what I can't do. Focusing on what I can change versus what I can't change. What's up? You get a funny comment?
Yeah. Nick's been on here with us all this morning.
What
but
did he say? What's so funny? I
he
wanna
said,
hear.
"I don't really trust the news." Period.
No, you shouldn't trust the news, Nick. No, if there's one thing that's come out of this whole thing, is you cannot trust the news. If you go to the news to get your information, at this point in time, come on, you got it. You got to understand these people are not telling you the truth. I mean, we now know this to be factual. Because you look at what they said versus what happens, what they said versus what happens, and the thing that drives me crazy is the lack of apology. I mean, dang, we need to go on a whole subject on the news because I could just go off on these people.
Go off.
But absolutely not. You cannot trust the news.
Yeah. And then he had another good one earlier in the show. He said, "I didn't start to really grow until I stopped my selfish addictions."
Selfish addiction. That's right. That's right.
So.
And they're going to keep creeping up, and they're going to creep up in different ways. So I think one of the keys is to become addicted to service, addicted to giving, addicted to helping others. When you become addicted to God, you can become addicted to the Spirit. That's when you're in a good place. And you know, someone's going to get healthy when, Joey, when they become addicted to healthy lifestyle. When they become addicted to working out, I mean, addicted to healthy eating, that's when you get super duper healthy. So it's like becoming addicted to things that are good for you, becoming addicted to helping others. Long term is going to help you.
Yeah.
But you're going to be addicted to something, so you better be very careful about what you choose to allow into your brain.
Facts.
Bloom where you're planted, people. That's our subject for today. All right, do not forget to like, subscribe, share this channel. Help us spread this light-driven content to the planet. This has been Mornings with Matt. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.
Thanks for listening to Mornings with Matt. Please like, subscribe, and follow us at Deering Acting Studio to keep up with the latest content. For more information on classes, private lessons, or professional development coaching, visit www.deeringstudio.com. Have a Deering day, everyone.